Greetings, and welcome to a brand new episode of Out the Box Talks. I am your host, Cril. I am so excited to continue bringing you all brand new episodes of Out the Box Talks. Every Friday, we put out a new show. I hope you guys have been enjoying the interviews and the different artists that I've been able to feature on the platform. As always, I focus on creativity or consciousness or just some type of quality or thought-provoking content that an artist has to offer on this platform. And as always, the artists that I have tonight on the show are no stranger to that. So I'm really going to get into their project that they released earlier this year. But before we do that, I want to just shout out the website, which is outtheboxmedia.com. Make sure you go to that website to keep updated with all of the, cool stuff we've been doing, from our music mixes to our plethora of interviews that we've done since 2008, 2009, whether it's via video or audio. We also have our Patreon page where you can actually become a member so that you can get access to exclusive interview clips. These are interview clips that have not been available publicly, only for Patreon subscribers or Out the Box members that go above and beyond to support. We also have our merch site, which is outtheboxmedia.bigcartel.com. We got merch up on the site, like the snapback hat that I got on, the Out the Box TV. This is for the vintage heads, right? Like, if you know, Out the Box TV's been rocking since like 2009, 2008. So this is the the originator of the platform, right? Out the Box TV is where it all began. And we also got other tees and other sweaters and a number of other clothing and apparel items that you can rock and just feel like you're a supporter of the movement if you really recognize and identify with what we do here, right? And then we also have our donations, right? So if you want to give donations to Out the Box Media, if you like what we do, because it is costly, it does cost some funds to be able to continue doing this through the to stream on a and put out new shows every Friday and all the other things we got going on. So you can always send donations to Cash App at hashtag Out the Box Rep. And if you're on PayPal, you could just send it to paypal.me/outtheboxmedia.com. Also, remember, if you are looking at this show via YouTube, the show also airs and is available as an audio podcast on platforms like Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast. Generally, where you listen to audio podcasts, you will find these episodes. So you can always, check there as well. All right. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to get that out the way. Also, remember to subscribe if you are looking at this show on YouTube. If you've been watching our episodes for all these weeks or all these months and you have not subscribed, please go do me a favor and just hit that subscribe button. And remember to hit that notification bell. If you like what we do and you appreciate this content, feel free to subscribe so that we can keep you connected, right, with all of the great episodes that we have and all the other stuff happening with Out the Box. All right. So I just wanted to make sure I got that out. I sometimes forget to remind folks to subscribe to Out the Box TV on YouTube. All right. And so like I said, we have another guest on the show today. We actually have a duo, our artist, MC producer combo, which is hip hop, right? That's one of the biggest representations of hip hop. So I'm really excited to have these two brothers on the show. Let me just give a little, insight about them. So we have an MC who's been doing this thing for quite some time, man, releasing projects every year. We had him on the platform via our audio podcast last year, so it's pretty exciting to have him back to speak about this new project that he has with the other guest today, entitled The Law of Least Effort. And the other guest is actually a producer. He is the production ear behind this project, and they are here to rock with us for episode 72 So without further ado, I want to welcome to our Out the Box viewing and listening audience, my brothers Eloh Kush and Ras Beats. Welcome to Out the Box Talks. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Welcome.
Peace, Jay. Peace.
It's a
Good.
pleasure to have y'all.
Good to be here, man. Appreciate it.
Indeed,
Yeah,
and
good to be here, man. Thanks for having us.
likewise, man. It's a pleasure. I can't recall the actual date when the Law of Least Effort came out, but I know it was sometime earlier this year. And as I was saying a little bit earlier before the interview, you know, the title, really struck out to me, right? So I want to talk about this project, which is going to be like the bulk of the interview. But before I do that, I do want to give y'all an opportunity to just, introduce yourselves, talk about, just give us a brief idea of, what got you guys individually involved in doing music and how you guys came together to do the music as collectively. So
Go
either
ahead, Rob.
person can go first if you want to go first, Ras Beats.
Yeah, I'll go first. I got into music from, just loving it as a kid. I got into DJing, doing my routines and, trying to be nice on the battling tip, scratching and all that stuff. And at a certain point, I was like, let me try to make my own beats. You know what I mean? Because I loved the stuff I was hearing, and it was kind of messing with my head, like, how is this being done from old records and samples? I was like, let me try that, and that's where it came from me, in the beginning, just kind of imitating other people, and then, you know, getting into what I think I have my own style, and taking it from there. Um, that's kind of how I got started, just loving music, and going from there. Um, yeah, that was it for me. That was it for me for sure.
So
Eloh Kush. Eloh Kush, artist, creative. Um, just the music is in the DNA from passed down from older brothers in my family, jazz musicians, and just passed down to the art form. The art form, I'm entrenched in it. Was raised in the culture, so it's always been there for me, whether I know it or not. Music has always been there. Hip hop has always been there because hip hop is my culture, and your culture is your way of life, how you move. Um, the people who got me, my Mount Rushmore, who got me started in the art form were, um, you know, Chuck D, Brother J, Wise Intelligent, Tragedy Gaddafi, and I'm forgetting somebody, my fifth one, but I don't remember. But that's in KRS-One, excuse me, and that's who did it for me. So here I am.
dope, dope. So tell me about how you guys first came together. Like, how did y'all first meet to begin with?
You want to take it or you want me to?
Go ahead, Roz. Go ahead, let the people hear you, G.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, I know it was. You know, a homeboy, John Doe, DJ John Doe,
That's
did
right.
a project with Invisible Hands, a maxed out single, and there was a song on there called Jackhammer that Elo had a verse on it, and I ended up doing a remix for that song, Jackhammer. And I think it was just something like, so I kind of connected with Elo, social media and stuff like that through that. And we kind of decided, like, let's try to do a joint. Like I like how he sounded over my beats, and I was like, let's try to do something. And it just kind of went from there. You know what I mean? We did Martyrs as the first joint, and yeah, it just kind of organically went from there. You know what I mean? It kind of naturally went like, this sounds pretty good. This feels pretty good. It was a pretty smooth start. So we took it from there, and yeah, ended up doing the project. But yeah, so it was just kind of like we didn't from my perspective, we didn't necessarily start with like, yeah, let's do a whole project and let's name it this and let's do this, let's do this, do that. We just did some music, and then it felt good. I think we both saw potential in it, and from there we kept working, and then it turned into the project that we have now. Um, so that kind of, for me, that's my favorite kind of collaborations, when it just kind of unfolds. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of similar to life in a way where just things happen, and all of a sudden you're like, we got 4 songs, we got to do something now. They
Right.
all seem to have a consistent theme. Let's build on that. Let's take it even further. So yeah, I don't know, Elo, if there's anything you want to add to it, but I think that's, from my perspective, that's how it kind of came to be.
I think well, everything you're saying is factology.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I would add on to it was the cohesiveness of it. Was
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't hard to create with Ras. It was
Mm-hmm.
the platform was the platform. And then, like he said, it wasn't like, hey, this song is called this, or I got this beat for that. It was like, hey, I got this music. What do you
Mm-hmm.
think? I think that's hot. I sent him back some stuff. He was like, yo, that's crazy. And it was just such a unforceful, I know a lot of people say organic in a lot of different times, but that's how even the title came forth from what I was reading, what I was studying at the time. And it all came forth so effortlessly. You know what I'm saying? It was just like when he said martyrs, I was thinking about the greats. That's why I called it the martyrs at the time. I was reflecting on that, and I put it in the music, and it just felt like that was, well, not that what it was supposed to be. That was what it's supposed to be, because it just came as natural as possible.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I noticed about you, Ras Beats, is that in thinking about some of your previous projects, you put out an EP called a High Five EP in 2018,
Right.
and you also put out a project called Control Your Own,
Yes, sir.
Control Your Own album in 2016, which I actually recall now. Like I remember, the promo going around for that project, but
Mm-hmm.
those two projects were like compilation projects in a sense. Like they featured a number of different MCs. Is
Right.
this, I could be wrong, but just so that I ask the question, is this your first project where you just did with one MC?
Yeah, that's the first one. Yep. This is I had a even before that, I had an EP named Balance, and then those 2 others that you just mentioned. And yeah, it was definitely something I wanted to do. I think it's a different challenge for a producer, even though it was a collaboration, 100% between the two of us. From a producer, it's a little bit of a different challenge, to like, let me make a certain amount of music with this one artist, this one voice, and try to make that as good as possible. Is a very different project to take on than, like, I think Control Your Own maybe had 12 different rappers and MCs, and High Five had 5, obviously. So it's very different, but it's something that I was excited to do, and something that I was kind of looking for the right situation, and just came along, and so it's definitely something that I wanted to do for sure.
Dope. Let's talk about the actual album title, right? Pretty strong album title. It's called The Law of Least Effort. Can you tell us why you guys chose to go with this title and the significance it has to the actual music on the album?
Um, so in the creative process of even before Ras and I were really working on this particular album, every like I make it a point I think like in the wintertime, right before the New Year starts, because the New Year is really in spring equinox. So I read the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. You know what I'm saying? And in reading that book, it's a spiritual guide for me. It's a great information guide for myself. And reading that book, I was gaining a lot, because I read it a million times, but this is the time it gave me a different level of information. So when Ras and I started actually working, I wasn't read. I made it a purpose in my creativity not to rewrite the verse or send back Ras the beat and say, hey, that doesn't work for me. Whatever I wrote, whatever he sent, that's what it was, and it came out. I didn't overthink it. I didn't I didn't over edit it. I just let it flow freely from myself. Like, this is the first time I've did this in a long time. So it was like it was an effortless action, but still it came out with supremacy in the actual, in results of it. So that's why I called it the law of least effort, because I didn't rewrite anything. I didn't overthink the hooks. Ras didn't send me a beat, then I'm gonna resend this one. Nah, it was just, yo, what you got? Oh yeah, Eloh, I like that. Oh, it was on. It wasn't really, and we're not yes men either. It was just like, yeah, that's it right there. Or that one, okay, yeah, I love that beat, and I wrote to it. And there it was.
That's interesting. So the process started before y'all even came up with the title. Like, y'all were already moving in that direction.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think we were already kind of doing it, sort of following that way of thinking without having the title. You know what I mean? I think that's why the title really fits. It's because obviously you want to have a good title for your project. You want it to fit the music and make sense. But I think for me, it really fits this because that's really what we were doing. You know what I mean? Like, we were like, once we started working on everything, it was smooth, and it's just a good approach to have to most things, but certainly creativity. Is to not kind of get in your own way. Is how I look at it, right? You can, like, I can make a beat and I can sit there and just be chopping up a piano and some drums, and I can sit there and I can be like, we can all get into our own heads. I think I could be like, yo, has this been done before? Has anybody, you know what I mean? And you start to be like, you overthink it, whereas like it kills the joy, it kills any kind of flow you have. And I learned at this point in my life to just kind of step back, just be like, while I'm making it, I turn that off. Once I'm done or almost done, then I'm like, what do I have here? You know what I mean? And if it's nothing that needs to leave the house, it stays in the house. But sometimes you make some stuff and then you go back to it and you're like, it actually reminds me a lot. I used to write graffiti when I was when I was a teen, and it reminded me of, like, you did your piece and then the next day you went back in the morning and you saw it kind of with fresh eyes and you were like, oh shit, this is a burn and this is nice or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't that nice, but some of my peoples were. I was all right, but you know what I mean? But it reminds me of that. Like, sometimes I make a beat and I remember being okay. And then I might, if I was up working at night, I might play it the next day. And I'll be, sometimes it surprises you, so that just kind of doing that just kind of taught me, like, don't, obviously you don't want to just throw stuff together, but don't overanalyze it while you're doing it. Like, the analyzing comes afterwards. Once you have something that has a certain form, then look at it then. I find for me that's very helpful. Like, that just enables you to get so much more and better stuff done because you're not being like a mathematician when you're being creative,
Yeah.
Definitely.
For sure.
Well said. So, Kush, you alluded to this earlier, but I'll continue on to it, where in the beginning of the album, I think it's like the first track, you really talk about that whole idea of the law of least effort, where you say, not rewriting the verse, not overthinking the production, not overthinking the skits, right? Even though the process of making this project was abided by the law of least effort, what would you say are some of the challenges that still presented itself in the construction of this album, despite taking the natural, easier route?
Good question. I think one of the challenges that I had in creativity with this was not being in the law of least effort. That was the challenge itself. Like, trusting whatever was going on at that moment and not like, okay, do I need to say this better? Do I need to reword this better? And not being on myself so much, if that makes sense, like not being overly editing myself like I usually do, because I'm an author as well. So I'm always writing and then trying to make the best sentence be because once you let it go, it's gone. Like, once you record it and then it's out and Ras has it and it's mixed and it comes out, then it's gone already. So That was the challenge. Not trying to striving to stay in the law of least effort and not saying, okay, that's not it. Let me doubt myself and go back. Nah, I just let it go. So I stuck to that platform. That was the only challenge for myself, I would say.
Got it. I think this idea of perfection sometimes could be a little misleading sometimes, especially when you want to get, your talents out to the world, right?
Right.
Um, I think a lot of people in certain situations may hold on to something for so long, and it's difficult for them to just find that comfortability to just, what, I gave it my best shot. Let me get it out. That's something that I've been learning. That it's not so much about perfection all the time, but just giving it your best shot and get it out.
Yes.
And I think that also coincides with the whole law of least effort. So like I said, the title stood out to me, and I think it was dope that when you started the album, you kind of talked about it, right? Before you even got into the first song, you talked about the process of making the album and how it fit into this concept of the law of least effort. So,
Correct.
yeah.
I would like to add on to that point, what you just said. I would think that was the only moment right there, the actual intro. Ras was like, bro, say what it is. And Ras, he brought me to that point because I was thinking like, yo, let's just use a sample for something. He was like, nah, talk about it. Talk about how you feel and let the people hear how you really feel. And I thought for a second and then it just came out. I sent it to Ras and I was expecting him to say, that's good, let's do it again on it. But he was like, nah, that was it. That's perfect. Leave it right there. So that was the only coaching point in this whole album, I would say.
Wow.
And purpose. And purpose.
And purpose. Okay. I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad that you started the album in that way, because as a listener, it intrigued me to want to really pay attention to the project from that conceptual standpoint.
Right.
The fact that it was started in that way. So props to you, Ras Beats, for bringing him in.
Yeah, Ras. Big up, Ras.
That was
Big
dope.
up,
Appreciate
Ras.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to add a little bit to it, like, because and that's one thing I like a lot about Eloh as an MC is he obviously has something to say. You know what I mean? So, and I like that a lot. I'm a fan of that. You know what I mean? Like I like all types of different rhyming, but when I think back, like I learned so much from hip hop in my life. You know what I mean? Like I was listening to, like you brought up Wise Intelligent. I was listening to Poor Righteous Teachers the other day. And I remember listening to that as a teenager and just being like, yo, I'm not catching everything, but I'm intrigued. I'm interested. I want to know more about what he's talking about. You know what I mean? So I just think it's such a tool that can be used for so many things. And so I'm glad it connected with you, that intro, because I think it was dope the way Elo talked about it. And I remember when I got it, when I got his vocals back, because he recorded it, and then I put the music to it, and I was kind of like, because it flows like not like a conversation, but it's obviously he's saying it live. You know what I mean? It's not super staged, it's not super scripted. And I thought about, like, should I edit it down so it was as tight as possible? But I ended up with like, nah, it flows the way it is, and that kind of fits the title and the concept and everything on the album too. Of like, let me not take everything he's saying and make sure all the space is completely even and stuff like that, because that kind of goes against what we talk about on the album. But no, I'm glad that as a listener that made an impression on you. That's kind of exactly what we were going for with it, for sure, with that intro.
Yeah, it definitely made sense. So I want to talk about some of the lyrics, and I'm going to be going through like some of the songs on the album. The first actual song, called Wizardry, you have a line, Elo, where you say, so ease up, selector, on your gentle side of playlist, and do the knowledge to this edutainment. and that's Word to the Blastmaster's verse on Jack of Spades.
Right.
Back to the legend KRS-One. But what was it about the Jack of Spades verse by the Blastmaster KRS that inspired you to take the edutainment approach as a lyricist?
That, you know, that movie was funny as hell. Let's just say first of all, right? That's a classic movie. I'm gonna get you sucker, correct? That's what that is, right? I'm gonna get you sucker. That movie was classic, but the what blew my mind in that movie, I'm watching the movie in the movie theater, and then bang at the end, you see one of your favorite artists come out. You know, I'm like, oh, that's KRS-One, that's Miss Melody, that's BD, that's DJ D Nice, and they fly, they extra fly, but the message still was so relevant. It was so relevant because you remember back in that time, all you had to do was have a big gold chain. You was like considered an artist. It was like, you know what I'm saying, like in the videos, and he was so dope in his message. I just love KRS-One. I love the science of edutainment. You know, that's how I walk that razor blade in my career, because you're teaching and also you entertaining at the same time. So I'm gonna say something, but you still got to be like this. You know what I'm saying? Like you still got, but it's like, oh, you know, because that's how hip hop is for me. You know, I mean, who is better than Brother Jay at that? You know, like in teaching, but he's saying some wizardry though. You know what I mean? Like it's up here, and it takes you, you know. So that's where I get it from. If that answered your question.
No, that makes sense. And I remember also the edutainment album that KRS put out, which was just mind blowing. You know what I'm saying? In terms of what he was representing on the project. And I can say you are, in the short time that I've known you, your music kind of embodies that same path, right? Of you know, having something of substance to say, and you know, putting that educational thought in your lyrics as well. So I, you know, when you referenced the line, and also when I went back and I looked at the video, you know, because they got the video, you know, from that actual song, and
Yeah,
remembering like what KRS, or realizing what KRS was saying, like he was really talking to, you know, some of the BS that we still see
absolutely,
today in hip hop, right? Or in
absolutely.
music. And you often do a really, you know, solid job really just talking about that realness, you know, in the music. So I could see why you reference the actual that song. And I just wanted to ask you further about it. So thanks.
Yeah, I mean, and just to add on in the beginning, like you're saying, when I say, you know, it's a mixture. When I say ease up, selector, I'm flashing back to being in wild Jamaican house parties. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
And then saying your genocidal playlist. You know, there's only death music they pushing. It's you know, it's only about chaos. It's only about destruction. It's never about building. You know, so that's I just mixture all those three thoughts and I compressed it and then put it forth like that.
indeed, indeed. Also on the song Wizardry, you have a line where you say you got three eyes, two sides of everything gets seen. You know, and I was like, man, that's a dope line, because it's one of them lines where you like, okay, you got to ponder that a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Even though
yeah.
you kind of get it for face value, but it's still one of them lines where you got to really just reflect and think about. So I just wanted to ask you, you know, just to expound on that line, if you had to define like what is the third eye and how it is beneficial to the idea of discernment, like what would be your response?
The third eye is the mind. You know, this is the third eye right here. So you're doing the knowledge to things on two sides. That's why I said two sides. Everything is seen. You're seeing it on the physical, and then you're seeing it on the metaphysical level or the spiritual plane, whatever way you want to see it. So you have to just think before you move. Um, my third eye gives me the information. It lets me see the world in a different perspective. So I'm here with it, boom, and then I'm seeing all things from that angle, and that angle. Make sure it's 360 degrees that I see it on.
Indeed, indeed. So you know, you guys notice I'm sticking on one song right now, right? But I'm gonna get to that.
Wizardry.
We're dealing with Wizardry. At the end of that song, there's an excerpt from Deepak Chopra where he talks about the urgent need for the wizard to return and for the wizard to wake up within us. Either of you guys can respond to this, but if you can expound on on that idea and what he was talking about in regards to the quality of the wizard within us.
He's talking about, Deepak Chopra is talking about the I am, the awareness of self. We're in the age of information, the age of Aquarius. So it's about knowing the ledge. You have to wake up and tap into the inner deity within yourself to bring forth your own truth, your own existence, your own government, your own way of your culture. You know, you can't be misled by anyone. There is someone who leads, you know thyself and understand what that truly means. When you deal with the way of wizard, you're dealing with the way of without going so far, it's an esoteric thought that manifests into your actual way of life in this plane. If you get that, if you're a reader and you understand that, so that's all it means to me.
Got it. Now, this next question is for Ras Beats. It I have to say, like, when I listen to this album, the drums really shine. I feel there's a variety of different and other percussion sounds that give this album a funky but raw boom bap feel. Tell me how you went about selecting the different drum sounds and drum patterns you wanted to display on this album.
Oh man, I mean, first of all, I appreciate that. I mean, I take a lot of pride. I put a lot of effort into my drums. I mean, that's, you know what I mean, is hip hop. It's in the style of hip hop we do. The drums are a big part of it. I try to make beats for this project for, you know, something that I was like, this will fit Eloh, and I think this will bring out. I think the Wizardry beat, for example, like it kind of is gonna hopefully inspire somebody to say something of substance on it because of, you know, the melody in it and the weird percussion sounds and stuff like that. I really try to just make sure that my beats sound right. My drums in particular, excuse me. I want them to knock. I don't want them to necessarily overpower everything. Like Free Will, the drums are really kind of, even though the beat is, you know, the beat is kind of in your face, but the drums are very low in the mix. They're just kind of tapping along. But man, I just try to make something memorable, man, and make sure that my drums sound right, and it gives you like some sounds in there that you're like, ooh, what was that? Like, you know, just a little weird sound that comes and goes where sometimes I play it back and I'm like, I don't remember doing that, putting that little sound in there, but I like what it added to it. But yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. My drums, you know, that's something I put a lot of work into, put a lot of effort into it. It's a lot of digging through old records and you know, tuning them, putting them with other sounds and stuff like that. So I definitely take pride in that for sure. So I'm glad it came across, you know, definitely glad it's heard.
Definitely. The other thing I noticed about the project, and I could be wrong, but it seems to me, based on my listener ear, that there's not much samples in this. Like, you know, like actual sampling from, like, you know, whether it be soul or jazz samples. I don't really hear it, but I could be wrong. But even if it isn't, like, I feel like the percussion sounds really shine completely, especially the drums. But yeah.
So you're saying it doesn't sound like there's any samples on the record?
It almost doesn't sound like, just based on, yeah, I could be wrong, but you know, you could add on to that if you would like.
Well, I mean, I take that as a compliment. You know what I mean? I think that to my ears, that sounds like it sounds original.
Right.
But it's, I mean, it's all samples. Like, it's all samples. Like,
dope.
There's a couple of tracks like there's a couple of tracks where I have a little keyboard where I played a little, like, you know, sort of fill-ins, but that's so way to the back. But Nah, it's all samples, man. That's how I create. You know what I mean? Like my drums are all samples, my grooves, my melodies, my bass lines, percussion is all samples. Like that's I know there's a lot of debate about samples versus playing and all that stuff, but to me that's how I'm able to create. And that's what I look at it like I'm good at that. You know what I mean? And I've been working on it for a long time, so I feel confident saying I'm good at it at this point. Um, but yeah, I mean, at the same time, I think obvious at this point, like I don't want to take a record and it just sounds exactly like that record. You know what I mean? Like there's a ton of obviously great hip hop where it's pretty recognizable what the original sample is, and it kind of sounds like that record with somebody rapping over it. And I love all that stuff. I love all my Furious Five and my you know to speak on Jersey, like him Shabazz, his first album is all loops, if I'm not mistaken, but it's incredible. You know what I mean? But it also has to do with the time where if I take a sample like Wizardry, for instance, like that's a sample, the guitar keyboard line in it, that's a sample. But a couple of months after we made that and mixed it and everything, I went back to the record and I played it and I was like, it's different. It sounds very different than the original, but
That's good. Yeah.
you know what I mean? I got to do my job. I got to do my job. I got to bring, you know, myself to it where it's like I did my work with that original sample. But yeah, no, it's definitely samples.
Got it. So can you talk to me about the order that you choose to create like your boom bap drums? Do you go with the kick and snare first before you attempt to match this? The other sample or like the melodic sample, or is it like the other way around? Like how do you? Because I know like some people
Mm,
they might just feel that like the drums will be created first and then they match the melodic
mm.
to the drums and it works for them. Like what works for you? What order
I,
works for you?
I think I can definitely do either way. It depends, but I think most of the time for sure I start with like the groove or the sounds, whatever I have. I usually start with that.
Okay.
I would say a really high percentage of the time I start with that first. And once I have something going, like I have my kick and my snare, and I might change the kick and the snare a couple of times just to get it to sound just right. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to overthink it, but you don't want to throw just stuff together too. You know what I mean? Like some of my favorite producers, all time, like their drum sounds always sound incredible. You know what I mean? So I'm like, man, that's the level you can reach. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, I gotta try to aim for that always. Whether or not you get to that level, I feel like that's not up to me to decide anyways. But it's like that's definitely the goal. Like I've heard, you know what I mean? Just as an example, like I was listening to your Pete Rock and CL Smooth. They reminisce over you the other day, and I was like, they did this in 91, 92. Like that's incredible. That's completely ridiculous. That Pete Rock did that beat so technically masterful at that time. This is incredible. You know what I mean? So I feel like I study the music because I love it, first of all, but second of all, because it's like a reminder of like this is what you can reach with it. You know what I mean? And I think anytime get into an art or an art form or creativity, like I think it's good to hear, the really good, the great, and the best in that genre and that field, so you can be like, wow, this is what it can reach. Because if you never hear that, you might not realize it could be that great. You know what I'm saying? And
It makes sense. Yeah.
like I remember I heard the expression high art at some point, and I was like, that hip hop can really be that. Like it can be any bit as in my opinion, it can be any bit as sophisticated and great as any other form of music and art. So, you know what I mean? That just inspires you to like, let's make something, let's just do the best we can. And then then the judging will be up to other people. But let's do the best we can, and take it from there.
Absolutely.
Definitely, definitely. So I want to actually jump back into some of the lyrics, on in the music. So this next question is for you, Kush. You reference, well, actually, this is words. So you referenced the seraphim a number of times in the music on the album. And I feel like it's at least 3 different times I heard it on different songs. For those that may not know what the seraphim character is, and what, like, I would ask you, like, what are some attributes that the seraphim symbolizes that have inspired you to reference it in your music?
Warriors, righteous warriors. Being able to fall from grace and not get kicked out from grace. So sometimes you can fall from grace, but it's still like you strive to get back to that point, which I think is humanity in us. We have it when we're born and we come into this world, but as we grow into the world, we start to lose our grace and start to take on the ways of the world and forget that we divine beings in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And the seraphim is also part of the science, one of the thought schools I'm in, and also reflects my crew, Angels Inc. You know what I'm saying? The fallen angels, we're really called, but we modified to the Angels INC. So we the seraphim, never the cherubim. We the green light reps, never the amber. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed, indeed. Usually I'll catch certain lines, and if I feel like it's a thing that I keep seeing cohesive, I always want to ask the artist about it, because I know there's always like an underlying meaning or a message, or in most cases there are. So thank you for expressing that. So another song that's really dope is, I mean, this project has 8 tracks, but like every track shines, and they all have their own energy, but cohesively, when you look at them, they're dope, right? The track I want to talk about is Perseverance. Before you start the verse, Kush, you say a few words, and one of the things you say is, there's no such thing as free time. And I mean, you said other things along that, but that stuck out to me. And it made me think about how when we were younger, we would hear the words free time, like when we would have recess at school. Right. But as we got older, we started hearing things like time is money or time waits for no one.
Exactly.
From your experience, how have you been able to maintain the use of your time wisely? What has worked for you with regards to managing your time best?
Respect for self and respect for others that I come in in contact with on the creative process. To add on, like what you said, when younger, it was called recreation. You break the word down, it's recreation. You know what I mean? So what are you doing with the time you're here? We don't have long. We have A into Z. We think we have forever. It's like, what do you do? I mold myself, like I always spoke to Ras about too. I tell him, I try to mold myself as a modern day jazz artist, and those brothers was always at work. That's how I feel. Like I want to leave a body of work behind that in 30 years or 40 years, someone picks up and says, oh, wow, this guy got busy, and then waste time. And of course, there's life and other things happening in between the raindrops, but I'm striving to leave my mark in each time. So I don't have time to waste on things that's not in the process, or even in the way of going the way I want to go. I can't hang with roller derby kids when I'm trying to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if they my people, so I don't have time for that shit. Like, I could just be like, I'm not better than them. I'm just saying I found my purpose and I'm walking in that purpose. You know what I'm saying? So that's real.
Indeed. I like that line. I'm gonna talk to you about that line before we close out the show today. So to stay on this track, Perseverance, as I reflect about it, I have to say, Ras Beats, this might be my favorite beat on the album. It has a very slick but groovy style to it. It's one of those beats that, give you that scrunchy face. It's like that. So talk to me about this track a little bit. Like, when did you realize that you arrived at that groove? Like, yeah, that's it. I got it. Like, when did that hit you for this track?
Oh man. Um, that's a good question. I like that. I like that. So somebody recently, a friend of mine recently was talking to me about the flow zone. Um, which I kind of always only heard it referred to as being in the zone, right? Like, you hear that about basketball players and creative people as well. Like, that person was in the zone. And I feel like a lot of times making beats is like, you start with something and then you might be like what is this? You know what I mean? But it's like, all right, let me keep working on it. Let me keep working on it. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, there we go. Like now yep, we're getting there. That one, it was like so that's a sample as well, but is sneaky. Like I call it some samples you find them is really obvious, like, all right, there it is. This one was like one of those, there's something here, you know what I mean? But I don't know exactly what. So I sat down and worked with it. And there's just that there was just it's the same for a lot of beats. At a certain point, you're like, okay, yeah, there we go. And then from there, it's detailing. You know what I mean? It's like adding a few little percussion sound. Like that one, there's a little bit, you can kind of hear it, but there's a little bit of keys that are kind of act like almost like an accent behind the main groove. Um, but I was definitely like in the zone making it, so I couldn't tell you like details.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of those, like at a certain point, I'm like, yeah, this went from being weird to being groovy. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm always conscientious of like I don't want to make anything too weird. Like I don't like music that's just weird for the sake of being weird. But I like my stuff to be distinct. I like it to be memorable, hopefully, where, you know, if you listen to 15 other records, you hear something I did, you might be like, what's that? I want it to stick out. And again, not in the sense of like, I'm just gonna throw like yodeling on there so you think it's different, but something to fit in like what I'm trying to do, but at the same time like catch your ear. You know what I mean? Catch your attention where like what's going on here? I like this, just a few sounds in there, a mood or something that's a little different somehow. I definitely try to do that. So I think, sounds like I hit it pretty well with that one.
Indeed. Yeah, man. Like I mean, like I said, there's other joints on the album that really stand out, but I think beat wise, like that's probably like my favorite beat, because it's just like you said,
Nice.
it has like a really slick kind of, vibe.
Yeah.
It comes across.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, and I asked that question because it has to be like a really fulfilling thing to just get that magic, when that magic comes together. Like, yo, I got it. Like I figured it out. I hit it. You hit the gold mine in terms of that sound that you were looking for. So good.
Yeah, Sean Price, rest in peace. He said, when I rhyme, I feel like the world's in the palm of my hand. And when I heard that line, I was like, that's how I feel. If I make a beat and I'm like, yeah, this is dope. That's how I feel. Like I can do anything. And the dope thing about it is it's not an egotistical, like, I'm great, I'm more special than you. It's just like, yo, this is flowing. You know what I mean? It's just inspiration. Like the inspiration is just, you know what I mean? It's just going. That's why, like, I don't smoke anything, but a lot of beats I couldn't tell you exactly how I made them, because there is some type of zone that you get into sometimes where it's kind of different. You know what I mean? Like you're turning off part of your brain, I guess, and just kind of going with that creative part.
Are there any elements that create that zone? Like, is there a certain atmosphere that you generally are in that would manifest that zone to create those sounds that you can think of?
Yeah, there's a couple of really, really basic things, like, taking your phone and parking it in the other room. You know what I mean? And like when I'm working on my computer and because I use an MPC, but when I go into Pro Tools, Like I make sure like my email is turned off on my computer because like I don't need your anything right now. You know what I mean? So I think just really down to earth, like taking those distractions and just like, putting them to the side.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you have like, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to call my mom, I got to do this, I got to do that. Tell yourself, like, I'm going to do that at 4 o'clock, whatever. I'm going to call then, but until then, I'm working. I got to call my brother, I got to do this thing and that thing. Like, I'm scheduling that in my mind for later. Like, for me, it's really basic, down to earth stuff, but it really makes a difference. Like, you know what I mean? Like when I'm making beats, fuck my phone. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not responding, and just because that's not important right now. It is once I'm done, then I'll check it and if it's something I need to respond to. But that's it. That's it. Really simple stuff. And I think everybody that works on creative stuff can probably recognize that. And if they don't do it, start doing it. You know what I mean? It's like night and day. You know what I mean? When you put those distractions away, like you focus, it's totally different.
Totally different.
Mm.
Can I add on about perseverance real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that is my, like I tell Ras all the time, that's my favorite joint because we have, in perseverance, for me, it's really where the song came from. Like it was my aunt had passed away and it was like different things I just took into that song. That was like a great platform to paint on. He gave me a great platform to speak about. The beat hit me like that. It's like doom 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 doom. Like it was just like talk. It was nothing too heavy. So big up Ras Beats on that beat, man, because he gave me the platform to really paint on that.
Dope. So I'm not done with that song yet because I gotta go to some lyrics from that.
Okay.
Kush, you say on that song, collect my wisdom, project my thoughts, shy away from the praise, then admit my faults. When I heard that line, I said, that's a pretty honorable line. Can you expound on what has motivated you to have moral principles like this?
Just having knowledge of self, studying mathematics, what was taught in my household as a young child, to stand up for certain things and be accountable for your actions. And that line is resonating more than ever in my life right this very second. You know what I'm saying? Like, so losing something that you per se, like, that you loved at one time or that you held so high because you thought that these things will always take care of themselves or be there. It shows that whatever you earn or gain in this world, you still have to do the work to keep that, whatever that is. You know what I'm saying? Whether that's humility, self accountability, a woman, a job, or a status, and whatever, you have to make sure you do the work to maintain that, and don't get lost in the ego in that process. That's what I learned, and that's what that line means.
That's what I guess I highlighted from it, right? Like it was really like doing away with the ego, right? And like really checking the ego.
Yes.
And especially the part when you say shy away from praise, then admit my faults.
Yes.
Like that's humility. You know what I mean? So it just was a line that stood out to me. And I just wanted to ask you about, the inspiration behind it.
Thank you, brother. You listening. I hear you listening. Ras, he did his homework, Ras. His brother is sharp, man.
Yep. I like that a lot.
So getting back to the production on that album, I think it's really interesting that the album is named The Law of Least Effort, because when it comes to constructing a beat, I've heard that often when you layer it with too much added sounds, it actually ruins the beat. What were some of the tracks on that album where you had to clearly practice the law of least effort beat-wise, and why? It's for you, Ras Beats.
Well, I think in any of the stuff I do, I always try to leave room for like the instrument, the final one, which is the voice. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I always am conscientious of like I want to leave space. I don't want to crowd it where like there's no space for the rapper. You know what I mean? So, interesting question. Like, I think I kind of did that with everything in a sense of like I wanted to make sure that I gave Elo like different, different like moods and flavors. So to make him talk about maybe different things on them. You know what I mean? I wanted to make sure that didn't give him like 7 or 8 instrumentals that sounded exactly the same and had the same mood and was kind of going in the same direction. I wanted it to be cohesive and sound like one project. But the law least effort as far as production, it's I think it's about stopping once you reach it, being like not professional, but like being sharp enough, I guess, to know that like, nah, this is all it needs.
Mm.
Because I also like after I get my songs back, whether we record in the studio, whether the MC sends me vocals, I like to go back in and add details after the fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's like it doesn't need anything. You know what I mean? It's like I can sit down for 2 hours and add a bunch of details and be like, yo, I'm such a great producer because I put more effort into it. But sometimes the fact is like, yeah, but it wasn't necessary. So you're just adding extra stuff just to like kind of show what you can do instead of being like, no, it doesn't need it. You know what I mean? Like Martyrs is kind of in my ears, like kind of a bugged out beat, but it's simple. You know what I mean? And I didn't add a ton of stuff to that after the fact because the beat already had elements in there. So I didn't think it needed anything to kind of vary it up because there was already a lot of things going on. Like Purpose is another one where I was like, I don't need to add anything else because I'm just gonna do it. Like we talked about the ego, I'm gonna do it for my ego's sake of like, yeah, I did more work. I added, 17 other sounds and but it didn't improve it. If it didn't make it better. So I think sometimes it's just a matter of like trusting yourself of like, nah, this doesn't need anything else. You don't need to add another, whatever the sound is, it's not needed. Um, but yeah, again, like in general, like I like to leave room because I like to work with people who I think are talented, more than talented. You know what I mean? I like to work with people who I think are great, and then I want there to be space for them to be heard. So that's why I make sure I leave the room on the beat because it's like, you got your whatever elements, but then there's a major one coming on top, which is, in Law Least Efforts, it's Elo. So there's got to be room for him. If every beat I give him is super complicated and, 75,000 sounds on it, it's not going to work the same. You know what I mean? So I like it to be, yeah, it's just to be space for the MC, man. You got to leave that.
Spoken like a true collaborator as a producer, right? Giving, that space for the MC.
Yes, sir.
So the other thing about the project is that it's only 8 tracks long. And I'm just curious to know if there were tracks that y'all left out. Like, how did y'all arrive at the 8?
Ras, what did we do? Nah, I mean, I think that's what, I mean, we had other beats.
Right.
Ras sent me some he sent me some missiles, but those were the ones that stuck. And in the mix down process, shout out to Jake on Space Lab Recordings Studios. He did a great job mixing down the project. Nah, I mean, it was just like I said, it was the law of least effort. I was like, Ras, what you think? He was like, that's it. Ras, what's up? This is it. Okay,
Yeah.
this beat, I'm using that one. Nah, I'm using this one. Okay, boom, 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 boom. And I mean, it does sound quote unquote cliche, but it really was the law of least effort. It was like, this is it. Ras, what you think? Nah, that's hot. And I think the only beat that we had a talk about more of what to do with it was Purpose. And I'll let Ras tell you about that one. Ras, you tell him about why we did Purpose or what you wanted from.
Yeah, so he sent me the verse, right? The who's gonna shed a tear for those who haven't been cried before. I think I said it wrong, but and I was like, what? This is what we're doing? You know what I mean? And I loved it, but it was one verse. And I remember we had a conversations where I was like, nah, you got to give me another verse, because it's cool to sometimes do like a short little 1 minute song and then like, all right, we're gonna just be out. But I was like, nah, we need a song out of this.
Yeah.
So we talked a couple of times, and I remember Eloh was like, nah, this is kind of what I can't come up with anything. And I was like, no, man, just listen to it. I know you got another verse. And he ended up blessing it with the chorus and the second verse, but it was just like, yeah, one was just too short. Because that's one of my favorite beats on the album. So I was like, nah, this needs to be a little longer. Just, we got to give him a full meal, you know.
So that's like a situation where you had to make an adjustment to the law of least effort, right? Or just add on to it.
just finish.
Yeah.
Basically just finish the thought, because the song
Right.
itself in creativity, the song was about Ras and I being in tour in Denmark. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like that's how it made me feel. Like when you hear when the beat first comes on, it feels like, to me, like I was outside seeing some new things. Like I was in a new continent. I was walking around seeing. That's why you hear me say it's beautiful. It's beautiful, because I was checking out different monuments in my head. I was already seeing Denmark, us being on tour in Copenhagen, and we was already moving around the continent in my head. So that's why I wrote the one verse, and it was initially supposed to just sound like a fade out to the next joint. But Ras was like, nah, give me some more. I know you have something else. I know you got, and I couldn't. I'm like, all right, I put myself in Denmark, then I extracted myself from there, So I had to revisit the same signs. Okay, what would I do to get to Denmark, And that's why the song came out. But that's one of my favorite joints, because I like that Ras made me reach back inside and draw something else out. That's how you produce truly.
Dope. Now, the project also has a few guest features on there. You have artists like Glorious, Lord Sun, Jabatan, and of course, Science of Life. Was the process of selecting who the features would be as easygoing as well?
Absolutely. I mean, everyone you named is family, literally. Like, blood brothers or cousins, and Science of Life is my comrades for like 30, 25 plus years right now. There's always an album. We're always intertwined. So it was just basically like, we're always creating. So it's like, yo, what you think? Yeah, send it to them. No pressure. If they said, nah, I don't really feel that one, then it was like, okay, then this album's not for you. Then I'm keeping moving. But everything I sent to whoever brothers was like so. What's that? Doogie's Part 5. That's what Glorious on there. That one that's why my line says, I wrote this in tour in Tampa, tapped into my crew. We was really in Florida. And we was on tour, and we was in between shows, and we was sitting just, waiting for the sound check, and we wrote the song right there. You know what I'm saying? So it was all like, boom, laid it down, recorded it, had it in my computer, got back, like, Ras, check this out. It's like, bang, that's it. And then, a credit to Ras, the beat that he sent me initially didn't sound like that. Like he said, he sent you something. He sent me something, but then he added a little bit more, but not too much craziness to it. Like, well, maybe he didn't, but either way, it was dope, man. So yeah, so those, and Roti is one of my favorite joints, man. I wish we gotta shoot a visual for that too, Ras, man. Like, I like that with Science of Life, because it was just a vibe. That one was a vibe. Like,
Nice.
It wasn't, it was Diddy bopping on that.
So I want to reference back to a lyric you mentioned earlier, Kush, which is found on the song Purpose.
Okay.
Where you say, finding your purpose and walking in it. I think it's such a beautiful thing when someone can actually experience living in their purpose. So this next question, either of you can answer it if it applies. After you found your purpose, how did you know you were walking in it? And what gave you the validation that you were moving in the right path?
for me, I'm still walking in the purpose and finding that purpose.
Mm.
I think once you stop searching, you become stagnant and die. If you're not in motion. Um, I think the bumps and bruises you get on that path, those bumps and bruises are experience. Um, I think not living in when you're walking in your purpose, you're not living in shoulda, coulda, woulda. You know what I'm saying? You're active in the I am and okay, I'm doing this now. Knowing that true failure is is not trying at all. It's not doing anything. It's just talking about it. Success is to me, is not being just the champion, it's the contender. Training, getting yourself together, getting on that road, getting up at 6 in the morning, jogging, getting up, sparring. Like I use it as a boxing analogy in a sense. And then also knowing on that path, the only constant in this planet is change, right? So knowing that you either have to invoke that change or be changed by that change. That's how you know you're moving in your true purpose. To
Indeed.
me.
Indeed. It's all from your perspective.
Correct.
Is what I'm asking. Do you want to add on to that, Ras Beats? Anything you want to add on to that whole idea of purpose and living in it?
Man, just I mean, man, that's a big question. More or less, just being a good person. If people can't handle that, then you know, removing those people from your life, learning from stuff. You know what I mean? Not making the same mistakes. Um, Removing the ego as much as you can. Using your time wisely. You know what I mean? Like if I love chilling. I love it. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of kicking back and chilling, but I try to make sure when I do that, that I actually really do relax. I'm not on my phone. I'm not doing 10 million things. Like I'm relaxing. I'm doing that. Man, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, taking the wisdom that you get out of life and actually like, you know what I mean? Actually learning from it, actually getting wisdom from different things you experience. And you know what I'm saying? Just man, that's a deep question, but some things like that.
No, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
You don't have to go too
yeah.
much into it, but yeah, I appreciate your response. So, Kush, you got a line. I forget which song it is. Where you say every month you give away a book for free.
Free will. Free will is the song.
Free will, right? What motivated you to offer that opportunity, and how has it added to your sense of purpose? The act of doing that.
Knowing the universal law, which is to give in order to receive, you give, or give to receive, right? That's it. That's the bottom, the bottom level of it. And knowing that for all the literature and the different vast volumes of library of books and information I have, I can't take this shit with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what's better to live on through immortality is either through your children or the works you leave behind. So I try to give someone what I've learned, give, whether it's the physical book or the reference, just give it to them so they can maybe capture some of the things I captured. Maybe something's going to grab them like it grabbed me, or, maybe they find a great author. You know what I'm saying? Something about the author that I was infatuated with. These are the things that I try to pass on, because you can't take any of this with us. Nothing that you have, anything material is not going with you. It's going to stay here. So I strive to, make sure that the creative processes keep going within a person. Like reading is so important. Information is so important. You're supposed to share it. Like, why do you think like that? Oh yeah, I read a little bit of this book that, I want to share those things. So that's why.
Dope. On the song Martyrs, I want to talk about the production of it for you, Ras Beats. It sounds like there's a vocal sample being repeated under the drums. I can only imagine that when you hear this sample by itself, it's probably very bland and lacking outside of the combination with the drums. But when it comes together with the drums, it just has this funky, raw, boom bap sound to it. Like it just comes alive. Everything cohesively comes together. How were you able to find the right drum pattern to not only complement the sample, but to actually make the beat a dope beat?
How was I able to do that?
Like
I
you,
mean, it's
like
like,
I was sorry to cut you off, but I was
yeah.
listening to the beat
Hmm.
and I envisioned listening to the sample by itself
Hmm.
without the drums. And that's why I said I could only imagine that, like, if you just played this vocal sample by itself, it's just something totally different. So I want
Right.
to ask you about the completion of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a choir originally. It's just, you know what I mean, like a bunch of, you know, people singing. I think it's Norwegian or something like that. But I mess with it so it kind of has this the highs and the lows comes and goes in what they're singing. So it kind of gives it movement. Um, it's just that's production, right? Like you take something a lot of times that doesn't belong there. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like you have this singing and you know, if I dug out the record and we started listening to it now, I don't think any of us would think of, you know, this sounds like hip hop, this sounds funky, this
Right.
sounds, you know, it's just like you got another record, you know what I mean?
Mm.
But that's the ones that the one that I call sneaky samples, and that's the ones that's a challenge of like how can I take something that doesn't really belong and make it fit perfectly. You know, it doesn't belong in a sense of like it doesn't seem like musically it fits. Like nobody's gonna rap over this.
Right.
But you know, that's when when you truncate it, you chop it, you put it into place, and you add your kicks and snare, and all of a sudden, if you do it well, you got people bobbing your head. Um, but the drums is really just about sound. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Once you got your little groove going a little bit, you know, you go through your drum sounds and you're like, yeah, that's it. You know, I need, and I kind of most of the time I know like what kind of drums I'm looking for. Like I kind of have an idea in my head, and then I start going through my sounds, and I'm like, yeah, that's it. But I like that thing of taking something that's when you hear it, it's like different. You know what I mean? It's like it's not an obvious sample to make a hip hop record out of, but if you make it fit, it's really satisfying because it wasn't like it was never, no record is made with the intent to be sampled 30, 40, 50 years later. That's not how they were, why they were made. But I'm sure if you told those people like, oh, check this out, this is your record, they might be like, what? That's us? Like, what
Yeah.
do you mean?
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And as a producer, I take pride in that. Like, I think that's a good way of doing it. But yeah, it feels right. Once it feels right, like, yeah, these are the right drums.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of what it is. Yeah.
You
But
know what?
I appreciate it.
Yeah, indeed. What I thought was interesting, and I wanted to ask you about this. Now, I know you
Right.
said it might be a Norwegian, like they may be singing in Norwegian, but I'm like, listen, I'm like, I wonder what the actual sample is saying. Because a lot of times you'll hear a sample and like you have no idea what is being said, or you might think that's
Right.
what's being said, but it's something totally different. Like,
Right.
yeah, but that was another thought that came through my mind. So when you said it might be like like a Norwegian vocal like choir or something, that was
Yeah.
actually funny to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's Norwegian because it's one of those like I looked at the record and the titles and I think I bought it somewhere for like $2 and I was like, I'll take a chance on this.
Mm.
And I don't know what any of the songs are called. I don't know what they're about because I'm pretty sure it's Norwegian, but I'm like
right,
I'm not sure what this is. So I couldn't even tell you what it was about, but they're definitely singing about something.
right. But you pull it off, man. You pull it off with the beat.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Indeed. So I want to go back to the lyrics again, and this next question is going to be for you, Kush, and it's for the last song on the album, Roti.
Mm.
You have a line where you say, "I gotta see it, say it, do it. With the written down plan, I remain congruent."
Yeah.
Can you talk about why writing down your plans and laying order to your goals in written form is so beneficial to success?
One of the jewels before my father left the earth, he told me, um, when you write, until you write it down, it's a fantasy. Until you put it down on paper or write it somewhere where you can revisit it or see it on a regular, it's a fantasy. You know what I'm saying? So, and then when I say I gotta see it, say it, do it, that's mathematics. That's knowledge, wisdom, understanding. You know what I'm saying? You gotta see it in your head. You have to. That's the knowledge. The wise words are being spoken is the wisdom. The understanding is the action that you brought forth from that. You know what I'm saying? That you made manifest into the world. So that line came out with a lot of different things in mind, but I sometimes I be forgetting I write that stuff. When you say these, like when you asking me these questions about the lyrics, I have to brace myself. Like, what did I mean by that? But then it just comes out naturally. I remember. It's like hieroglyphics, Lord. It's like you hang something on the wall, and I'm over here somewhere, and then you go, oh, I did say that. Like I did paint that. So yeah, that's what I meant by it. Stick
Indeed.
to the plan. Work the plan. Plan your work. Work your plan. That's it. That's what we did with the album.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah, man. The album is phenomenal, man. You guys got a lot going on, and Kush, like I think I've been, watching you for a few years now, and I think you're just only getting better, man. Like, your
Thank you,
voice
brother.
is just so strong on these records, man. Like, and I see the direction you're moving in, man. So just continue to make that happen,
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Thank you for the platform, brother.
Indeed, indeed. So I want to ask y'all, and you guys could individually give y'all responses. So we're like kind of like mid 2021, and I know Kush, you're always putting out stuff. But for each of you, like, what is next in store? Like, what can people expect musically from you guys individually? And also, is there a possibility that we will have Law of Least Effort Part 2? So that's 2 questions.
You go first, Ras.
I think there definitely is a possibility, strong possibility that we're gonna do something again for sure. I feel like me and Elo's relationship is totally different than when we started working on this. You know what I'm saying? Like we talk about shit now too. You know what I mean? If we talk about music, like you know what I mean? Like we catching up with each other too. Um, and I think that's the type of thing that takes a little bit to develop. You know, at least for me, like I don't meet people and then the next day I'm like, that's my man. Not because I distance myself, but because like I use words like that carefully. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Like just so they still mean the same thing. Um, so I definitely think there's a strong possibility of that. We're still working this, you know what I mean? We're still talking about it right now. So like we're not really in like I mean, speaking for myself, I'm not in the mode right now of like, yeah, we're gonna do another one right now because this one still feels present.
Yes.
But I definitely feel there's a strong possibility of that for sure. And I think we have a good chemistry, so I can definitely see that. Hopefully Elo won't say hell no and I'll look crazy, but
Nah, for me, it's see, um, it's the same science. Like we're still in this particular, presentation. You know what I'm saying? So we're working this like even the way we presented it at first. It was like, yo, do you rock with us for real? If you do, go get it from the website. No middleman, just straight from us to you. And if you
Mhm,
were smart, you got something with it. Like you bought the digital package from us, you got something extra that you won't get on Spotify or anything else like that. We didn't do any physicals. We wanted to keep it in the digital age. Um, so yeah, we're definitely sticking with this right now. This is one of my main concerns. And if something manifests, we might add another song, another instrumental, something like that. But as far as the next thing, yeah, we'll be definitely working together. It may not be the law of least effort too. It may be something totally different, but we definitely have. We're gonna be working on something, because we have, like Ross said, what as we started to where we're standing right now, our relationship personally and professionally is totally different. So
mhm.
we're linked
Right.
in, like we're moving upward towards. So
That's what's up.
yeah, be on the lookout. You might catch a stray missile somewhere like Ras Beats producers. I'm backflipping on there somewhere.
Indeed, indeed, man. Listen, man, it was a pleasure having you two on the show. I wish you all nothing but continued success. For the people that may not be aware, though, if you want to give them your website or social media platforms where they can stay connected with you, feel free to go ahead and do so.
Ras, DJ always first, man.
Yes, sir. The website is rasbeats.com, rasbeats.com. You can get anything on there, anything you need, but also you can check me out on like the social media. Instagram, it's Ras Beats NYC. Twitter is Ras Beats. Um, yeah, man, that's it. It's all there.
For me, elohkush.com. That's ELOHKUSH.com. Eloh Kush Twitter, Instagram, Eloh Kush. Just check us out, man. Do yourself a favor, man. Like, check us out online. Check both of our websites. Check our catalogs, and just follow the path that we laid forth, man. We putting out great music. You're not gonna hear a whole bunch of murder, death, kill with us. You're not gonna hear a bunch of devilish music. You're gonna hear the art form with us. So if you tuned in and tapped into that, if you're sick of the same type of album covers and the same type of, everybody trying to duplicate one person, you trying to say some originality, authenticity, come mess with Ras and myself, man. Tap into us.
Well said.
Yes, indeed.
So again, brothers, thank y'all. I want to say to all of our viewers and listeners, make sure y'all go to our website, outtheboxmedia.com, and subscribe on the website. Also, hit up our Patreon page if you want to become a Patreon subscriber and get access to exclusive interview clips. We got a lot going on, man, and I just want to stay connected with y'all. To the artists that are on the show today, I'm gonna be looking for much more music from both of you, and I know y'all got a lot more to offer. So again, much success to all of our fans and listeners. I want to say peace, love, and light. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay focused. We out of here. Peace.
Peace.